This is Coffee Chat, Redefining the Empty Nest. Here are your hosts, Lisa McGrath and Renee Lowry.
Hi, and welcome to Coffee Chat, Redefining the Empty Nest. I am Renee, and this is
Lisa.
And we are here today with Lori, who is approaching that empty nest stage, similar to me. And we are going to just have a nice conversation and enjoy a comfortable chat with Lori today. Hi, Lori. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and your family?
Hi, Renee, and hi, Lisa. Like you said, I'm approaching empty nest. My youngest is a high school senior, so in less than 2 months, she will be graduated high school and off to college. My oldest is a sophomore in college already. So I've been married to my husband for well over 20 years. We have one business, getting ready to start up a second one. We're both entrepreneurs. So it's kind of like we started the beginning of this school year thinking, okay, what are we going to do when they're both off to school? Because I can't sit here and wait for them to get home from school to chat like I've been doing for 12 years.
Right.
That's a good point. That's a good point. So you're preparing now for the future, for tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah. Because I was the mom that, I had two boys, and I was the mom that cried the first day of school, putting them on the school bus and sending them off because I had so much fun playing with them all summer long. And I could, like you said, I was a stay-at-home mom for most of raising my children, and I couldn't wait for them to get home so we could play, I could do more stuff with them. So I can really relate.
Oh, I remember when my oldest got on the bus for kindergarten, the first day of kindergarten, I sobbed all the way home from the bus stop. You know, my husband even has a picture of me. He's like, and this is what mommy does when she gets on the school bus. And I was sad when she started college, but I'm also excited because it's really cool to see, you know, I've watched them grow and mature, and it's kind of exciting to me to see what are they going to do now.
So what happens when she comes home to visit? Okay, she's been on her own, she's at college, and she's coming home. She's had another growth spurt, right? Away from her parents. Typically, when you don't see someone every single day, you notice those changes. What is the biggest change you've noticed when she's come home?
For my oldest, well, right now she's back home because the pandemic, she's virtual. But if I look at the first year of her school, it was kind of interesting because the last year of high school, she started pulling away. You know, I'm almost 18. I don't need to talk to you anymore type of thing, like most teenagers do. And then she went to college. We moved her in. I cried leaving the parking lot again. And I think we had more chats over FaceTime that first semester than we did like the whole year before, which I thought was kind of cool. You know, she would just call me out of the blue, and some of it was, what setting do I put the washing machine on? You know, and others was just, I'm bored, let's talk. So it was kind of cool. And now my youngest has hit I'm almost 18. You can't tell me what to do stage. So
Fun one.
It's like a cycle going through it again.
Yes.
But it opens that door of communication. Go ahead, Renee.
Yeah, I was just going to say your story sounds a lot like mine so far. My oldest one, are yours both girls, Lori?
Yes, both of them.
Yeah, so are mine. And my oldest one is a freshman in college this year, and my youngest one is going to be a junior next year. So it's like that 3-year gap there. And so I resonate a lot with what you're saying there because it's a very similar situation for me too in that regard. Man, I totally blanked. I forgot what I was going to say right there. Sorry about that. But yeah, well, that's very similar.
But
go ahead.
I was just going to say, even though my oldest is home because she's virtual right now, the dynamic between her and I is similar but different because she is 20 years old. You know, so I kind of forced myself to recognize that she is an adult. She doesn't need to ask my permission for every single thing, even though she's living under my roof. But at the same time, like she went out with one of her friends yesterday and she came downstairs and asked, is it okay if I go hang out with my friend? And I was like, okay, sure. Just, so it's kind of, she's just, it's, and she even told her sister, it's out of courtesy.
I was going to say respect.
She's
That's
like,
a really,
because my youngest was doing I'm almost 18, I'm almost an adult, I should be able to decide. And my oldest is saying, well, yeah, but we're still living here. So, we gotta be nice.
yeah, see, that's a tribute to you.
Emotions.
Tribute to how you raised her, because she has had that growth and she's able to do that. And being the older sister, she was the one that had to plow the way through probably for the younger sibling. I know I had lots of siblings in my family and I needed them to push first, because by the time it came down to you, something's different. Renee, I have a question. So what happened when when you just recently sent her off to college and there was some tears involved? What's it like having her back? Did you see that growth?
I did. I absolutely did. And mostly in her personality. I mean, because the first time she came home was only 4 months later. So I didn't really notice so much in her physical appearance in changes, although there were some. But it was her personality that had the biggest difference. Like you're saying, she was much more respectful. Mm-hmm. It was almost it seemed like an overnight change because she was gone away from my house because she's been at school, unlike doing the virtual thing. And when she came home for Christmas break, it was a different kid. And yes, we had lots of those, figuring out how we work together now with everybody in the house again, and how you relate with an adult child. But we had to decide. I think the thing that threw me the most in that moment was having to decide, or even knowing I could decide that the new structure for things, yes, you're an adult, but yes, you still live here. We still have family things that you're responsible for. And just because you're an adult, doesn't mean you're exempt from them. But she handled it a lot better than I would have thought, which was amazing to me. I mean, if I had to guess ahead of time, I would have said she would have come home with this attitude. Oh man, I'm an adult now. You can't tell me what to do, a lot more. But no, she was very respectful. Like you're saying, it was kind of an awesome thing to see. And it's awesome for my younger one to see that as well. So I hear you on that note.
One of the fun things that we discovered when my oldest came back home is she missed cooking, because, when you're in a college dorm, even though they have like a community kitchen, she's like, it's not the same. She's like, it's terrible pots and pans. So she came home and I actually pay her to cook twice a week for us. She missed it. I get busy trying to build our businesses. So I'll be sitting here at my desk and the kitchen is right above me and I'll start smelling something. And I was like, what are you cooking tonight? It really smells good. That's awesome. Kind of something I wasn't expecting, was that she would miss cooking. Kind of fun.
So can we forecast into the future a little bit? What do you think it's going to be like sending your younger one off to school?
I've thought about that the last few weeks, because it's kind of funny the way it works out. My birthday's in August and they both move into college on the week of my birthday. So it's like, when we were talking with the admissions counselor with my youngest, he was like, are you going to be sad when she moves? And I was like, well, I'm actually, like I said, I'm excited to see what happens and how she grows. And she's undecided in what she's going to study in college. So I'm kind of excited to see how she learns that path. But at the same time, it's like, well, shoot, what am I going to do? Because it's one of our things is school's over. And they come sit down in my office and I just turn away from my desk and we talk about random stuff, whether it was what I learned in stat class or what so-and-so said in school, or I have a headache or whatever. It's just a random, sometimes it's a 10-minute talk, sometimes it's an hour talk. But those won't happen, once they're both gone, because they won't be here. So.
Do you think that with your oldest one in college, that level of sort of shared intimacy, that level of bonding has decreased? I mean, not necessarily the frequency, because yes, that's a given. The frequency is going to decrease, but did you see a dramatic level in your bonding with your older child, like decreased when she went away to college? Or would you say it stayed even or kind of increased even? Because my story, I could speak to that too.
It's interesting because I don't know that it decreased. I wouldn't say that it increased, but it changed. Changed in what she was comfortable sharing. And it's interesting, I'm a mom of girls. Even I have a stepdaughter that's 30, with 2 kids of her own. But my oldest, she goes to college, becomes an adult out on her own, as she puts it, even though she's in a college dorm. And all of a sudden she's comfortable talking about things that she would have never talked about, like sex, stuff like that. And she never did that when she was a teenager, but now it's like, I'm an adult, you're an adult, we can talk about these things. So I kind of thought it was kind of cool. The first time she starts saying something, I was like, okay, this is different.
Right.
But I appreciate that she's comfortable enough to do that.
I agree. I think my story is again very similar. My oldest one shocked me when, in like 3 months after she'd been gone, she called me and just talked what turned into a 4-hour-long conversation. And I have never talked to her over the phone or otherwise for that long at a time. But she was just like, no, don't hang up yet. Don't hang up yet. And I wasn't going to stop it. I was going to see where this went. 4 hours with my kid on the phone. But it was very similar. The level of conversation we had and our ability to relate was on a different level. I agree. We were talking about things like her friends and what they do at school, like with the partying levels, right, and the drinking and the sex and the girlfriends and boyfriends. And it was a very different conversation. And that's probably one I'll remember forever and ever, but it definitely brought us closer. But you're right, on a completely different level.
The first time it just took me by surprise, because I was like, yeah, okay, we never talk. When she calls me up and she's like, guess what, Mom? Apparently I'm really good at beer pong. And I was like, okay, thanks for telling me this. She's like,
just what I wanted to hear.
And then she's like, I guess I had a face, because she's like, don't worry, I just flipped the pong. I have somebody else drink for me. I was like, okay.
So I have boys. Mine's a little bit different than you guys. And so as I listen to you both, I'm a little jealous. But then on the other hand, one of the things that I keep hearing in my head is that old ditty that, a daughter's a daughter, a boy's a boy until he finds a wife, and a daughter's a daughter all of her life. And so when my boys grew up, and then of course they got married and they had their own wives, it was different. It was lonelier. I didn't have all these great conversations. And now I seem to go through the daughter-in-laws more to find out what's going on in my grandchildren's lives even.
Interesting.
So I don't know if that's a boy-girl thing or what, but that's something I've noticed. I miss my baby. Because my boys were all his mama's boys growing up, and we were so close. And so it's just different as adults. They're different. Yeah. They don't call me with those sex stories.
I have a question for you, Lisa. With boys, and especially since they were so close to you when they were younger, did you have, I know you said the transition was harder because you were like separated more, didn't have these stories, but when they have the moments when they're back home, when Mother's Day comes around, when, your birthday comes around, how do they treat you as adults? Is it everything you thought it would be? Is it, how does that work? Like, where do you see bonding with your boys this age?
So, more so with my younger one than my older one, but it's what's really nice is they say thank you, and I guess that's that respect thing that Lori has, right, and that you even have. They say thank you. They, now that they have children of their own, they appreciate and the behind the scenes things that they didn't realize I was doing. But then there were stuff that they said they knew I was doing. They didn't admit to it and they didn't appreciate it while it was happening. But now they realize just how much I invested in them and their futures and all of that.
Right.
So that is really a big blessing,
Yes.
as well as my birthday. But again, the cards, my daughter-in-law is getting those cards. My daughter-in-law is the one doing a lot of that stuff. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I really enjoyed this conversation. And again, I think, Lori, because you have the perspective of already having one out and on her own or in college, and then one at home still, you're walking that bridge. You're walking that bridge. And
Yep.
what I love is that you're preparing for it, because some people feel that when they wear that moniker of mother, so they have that so ingrained that when the kids are gone, they don't have their identity. But here at the same time, you're preparing by starting a new business or
Yep.
in rebranding the other. So it's really great because you're redefining what your empty nest is going to look like. It's going to be filled with so much energy and love and respect that you're setting an example. Without telling your kids that you're setting an example, you're setting an example for them to follow. So I just think that's awesome. And I'm grateful that you were willing to share that with us.
Yes, I agree. And something I loved that you said was when you were talking to the counselor about your younger one leaving, you were happy for her that she was going to embark on this journey. And I feel like that is a valuable perspective to keep for your own personal sanity, because it's like you can either be all encompassed in the hurt and the missing them, or you can have some joy. And it's a choice kind of that you make. I'm choosing to have joy for my child, that she's going to be fine and she's off on this adventure, and I'm going to support her in that. The same way we would have sending them off to play t-ball as tiny little toddlers, you know? So this is their new adventure and you're supporting them in it. And it just looks a little different, but still the motherly thing to do in that regard. And it's a choice, right? It's just the perspective.
Yeah, I've been very intentional I'll admit, in the beginning, I was that helicopter mom. You know, I had to be everywhere, see everything, be involved in everything. But it was middle school when my oldest looked at me and she's like, "Mom, you're stressing me out." And I was like, okay, I think I need to back off a little bit and let her grow up on her own. And it was, I've been intentional about doing that. And I have found it rewarding. So I'm sad they're going, but I'm excited for them. And I'm excited for my husband and I, because when we met and got married, he had a 6-year-old. So this will be our first time to be by ourselves. So I'm looking forward to that.
You have a lot to embrace. So that's great. Well, I want to say thank you for joining us today, Lori. Renee, thank you. I've enjoyed our chats, and I specifically really love, sharing coffee and dialogue with my friends. So thank you very much for joining.
If you'd like to be a guest on Coffee Chat, follow the link, be a speaker, and apply. Subscribe and like our videos. You can follow Redefining the Empty Nest on YouTube or join the Facebook group.